Hello everyone, I'm Alfian and today we are going to solve the HackerRank challenge on the problem solving section called the find digits. And for this particular challenge, the description says an integer d is a divisor of an integer n if the remainder of n divided by d is equals to 0. Given an integer, for each digit that makes up the integer determine whether it is a divisor. Count the number of divisors occurring within the integer. For this example right here, n is equals to the 124. Check whether 1, 2, and 4 are divisors of 124 as a whole number, and all three numbers divide evenly into if all three numbers divide evenly into the 124, so return 3, which is each of the digits of 1, 2, and 4 are divisible from the number 124. So basically we are, let me draw this, give you a little explanation about the number which described from the HackerRank. So let's say we have the number of the 124. So there are three numbers, the first one which is 1, the second one which is 2 or the second digits, and the third digit which is 4. So these numbers we are going to divide them separately. Let's say 124, check if it is divisible by number 1. Since 124 is divisible by 1, so we need to return it is divisible, so it's not going to return any floating number, and it is returning an integer number or the exact number without a comma whatsoever. And for this 2 right here, it is the same thing. 124 divided by 2 is equals 62, I believe. And also the last thing is 4. 124 is also divisible by 4, so it is still returning an exact number which is 31. So since each of the digits of 1, 2, and 4 is returning the answer which is 3, what does it mean by 3? 3 is the total number, the sum of the number, that how many digits that are divisible from these divisors. Since the answer from the digit 1 is equals to the 124, then we need to return 1. And the next one, since it is not a floating number or it is eligible within a division, what it means that we are not calculating 124 with the 0. We are not dividing this with the number 0, then of course it will not return any number, and it will return an error because any number is not going to be divisible by the number 0. So this 62 is an integer, so we need to return 1. Also 31 right here, since it is also an integer result, then we need to also return 1 as here. So all of this 1 is going to be returned as the total sum that we need to return from this function. And for the next sample, we have to check whether 1, 1, and 1 from the number of 111 is they are divisors, and they are divisible by each of the digits, which is 1, 1, and 1 from the first digit, second digit, and lastly the third digit. And since all three numbers divide evenly into 111, so we will return 3 as our answer. The same thing also applies on the first example right here. And for the next example, which is on the example number 3 right here, we have the number of the 10. Check whether 1 and 0 are divisors of 10. Since 1 it is, because 10 is divisible by 1, or we can use a modulo operator to check if 10 modulo by 1 to check if the remainder is equals to 0. If it is not, then we are not going to return 1 as the sum, which is the divisors of the 0, because it is not eligible. 10 is divided by 0 is not going to return anything, so we can just return 1, which is the first digit. And without further ado, let's solve this out. Let's say we are using the TypeScript language or JavaScript if you want, and if you want to use something else other than TypeScript or JavaScript, then go ahead, I encourage you to do so. Let's look our code right here. We have the function of the find digits, which takes one parameter, which is the n in a form of number, and the expected output is also in a form of number. to check how many digits there are eligible as the divisors from the whole number, from the n parameter right here. And we can first declare our approach. The first one, we need to iterate on each digit to find from the whole number right here into our separate digits, which is 124 right here. We need to separate 4, 2, and 1 respectively, so we can just use them against the whole number, this whole number, to check if they are divisible or not, if the result is equals to the integer or a floating number or not a number. We can do that by checking the first approach, which is the using a while loop. Check if the n, as long as n is above the 0, then we need to calculate this until leading the number 0, or it is depleted from the n parameter right here. But using the n and mutating the n directly from the parameter is not the best practice of approach, so we can utilize this later. We can tweak this later and fine-tune however we want. We can check the first one by creating a constant of the single digit by using digit, and to find each digit from this while loop, we can just calculate this by using the n of the n parameter divided by 10, and we can get the result from here. Since 124 divided by 10 is equals to the 12.4, so we are not going to do that as the digit because it is a floating number. How do we get around this? It is very easy. We can just swap this divisor operator into the remainder operator or the modulo operator. If we look over the documentation using the mdn docs, and we can look for the remainder operator. Okay, so for the first example right here, first console.log, we can just run this, and this is the remainder from the 13 divided by 5. We have the remaining number of 3, and we can change this to 124 to our use case divided by 10, and we can get the result of 4 instead of 12.4 by using the previous operator, which is on the divisor right here, divisor operator. We can just use the modulo operator or the remainder operator to extract each digit before leading to 0. So let's say if we already divide this into, let's say we are separating 4 with the 12, and then the next one we should use the remainder operator to compare the 12 against the 10, and we will extract the 2 from the 12, and we separate the 1 and 2, and finally we can use 1 against the 10, and we will get the final result, which is the final digit of 1. So that is the thought process that I'm trying to tell you. And for the next one, after the digit, we can use the console.log, and we can just print out the digit into our screen to see what are we trying to work on. And the next one, we need to mutate the n is equals to the math truncation. I'm going to use the math truncation to convert the floating number into the integer number. So let's say we have the truncation from the 124 divided by 10, so we get the result of 12.4. Using the math truncation function or the method, we can eliminate the floating number after the integer, which is 4 right here after the comma. So we need to eliminate the 4, and we will get the integer result of the 12. So that is the main function of the math truncation method. We can wrap this out by using the n divided by the 10. And let's run our code right here to see the console.log what is going to be printed. And we have the first number, which is 12, and we are printing from the back 2 and then 1. And for the next number, next batch of number, we have 1012, and it is printing from the back to the front, 2, 1, 0, and then finally 1. So we off to a good start right here. And we need to declare two variables. The first one, we need to declare the remaining number using the remaining, and we can just use the n parameter. Takes the n parameter, so we can just use the remaining instead of the n parameter because it is not a best practice, like I said earlier, not a best practice to use the parameter and mutate the parameter in place. So we can just use the remaining. As long as remaining is above 0, then we need to declare the constant digit with the remaining divided by 10, and we can just use math truncation using the remaining divided by 10, and we need to mutate the remaining instead of the n. Okay, so we already separate the n parameter from our main operation, and for the next variable that I'm mentioning is about declaring the answer to see how many digits are eligible as our answer. So for the first example, we have 3 digits as the divisors of 124. Then we will return all of the 3 into our answer. So we can declare the answer variable as 0 as for now, and for the return statement we can just pass in the answer variable that we already declared before. And for the next one, instead of using the console.log digit, we can just use the operation right away by using an if check. If the n is divisible by the digit variable that we already declared is strictly equals to 0, so there is no remainder from this calculation, which is not returning any floating number, so just returning the whole integer number. If it is, since it's always an integer always returning 0 as the answer, then we can just count the answer by using plus plus operator or incrementing operator. If it is not, or if it's not a number, then we will not go to this if check, and it will be passed right after. So let's say if from this third example here, 0, since 0 is not eligible from the divisors of 10, then we will not process 0 as the answer if check right here. So let's run our code again to see if it works, and let's submit our code to see if it really works. Okay, so that's about it. I hope you understand my explanation. If you still don't understand, you can ask me in the comment section, or if you have any better solutions regarding this challenge, tell us what you think in the comment section. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.